So this is what we see recently in the area, right? Our Sardeños, Crips, Bloods, some gangster disciples, but just through our specific area in Snohomish County, just the activity-wise. So what do we want to look for, right? As educators, youth, outreach workers, right? Teachers, we're going to look for clothing items, tattoos, signs, hand signs, graffitis, artwork. None of this stuff that I'm going to show you is cute, right? But I can show you all kinds of pictures from 2 years old. People grow up in this environment, right? And it's come across as, oh, that's so cute, look at him, he's mimicking. As soon as they start mimicking, it becomes part of their norm, and it becomes harder to intervene and prevent. The common high risk factors that I try and identify is behavior, right? Are you not listening to your parents? Are you not coming home at specific time, right? Does your parent not know where you are for the whole weekend? Socioeconomic status, it can be an indicator, but it's not a true indicator, right? Like, I grew up not in the best of socioeconomic status, but was there gang influence because of that? Yes, because of the neighborhood I was in, but it didn't become a part of who I was, right? Parents constantly working, and that's a double-edged sword, right? We have parents that have to work, right? And as a result, their kids are growing up without that mentor, without that kinship, so they will go find it somewhere, right? Language barrier, they'll group together if they feel they're being picked on. Family involved in gangs, like I said, it becomes a culture. If your uncles are gangs, it doesn't matter if your grandma takes you from SeaTac and brings you up to Everett to try and give you a better life. If every other weekend you're going down to see your uncles and your whole family is in the gang, right? That's what you see. Location can be a factor, and your friends or your peer group, right? That puts you at high risk. So you can take a picture of this, or you can get with me if you want. I have all of these resources, but just if you don't believe from a police officer that these are the things that I see or the things that I lived, right? There's research that says all these indicators aren't going to make a gangster or criminal street gangster, but it can help influence the path that they take, or the only path they see that they have. That's what I mean by clothing. All right? This here, can anybody tell me what that is?
Handkerchief.
No, bandana. Bandana.
Okay, so bandana, handkerchief, right? Me, my enforcement guys, and most guys that have been through my training, that is neither. That is a gang flag. The difference between that is I'm a big guy, I like to barbecue, right? So I have one of those in 20 different colors. I have a pink one, I have a lime green one. I'll blow my nose in it, I'll wipe my head, it'll fall on the ground. It may even catch on fire, depending on how my cooking is going that day. That is a handkerchief. This has been folded, creased, ironed, right? At that point, the symbol takes on something completely different, so it's no longer a handkerchief. That's gang paraphernalia, right? This right here, that's the X in the Roman numeral for 13, right? Those shoes were specifically tied that way, right? Or laced that way. That is them expressing and putting that out. This is a sports jersey that's been made. Most athletes that play are superstitious. 13s in social is historically a superstitious number, like unlucky, right? This was specifically made because I don't know a professional athlete that has the last name Southsider, right? It's things like this that we need to pick up on, and it could be just that subtle, right? That's no longer being subtle, right? That's different than this, right? Somebody may catch on that, somebody may not. This is an advertisement of where this person's from. He's from Florencia, right? And he wants everybody to know this kid's going to be harder to talk to because he's putting it out there, right? As opposed to this kid, right? I can still intervene with this kid. Can anybody tell me why? I believe I can still talk to that kid. It's on the inside of the belt, right? So that means when he leaves his house, all his parents see is just a red belt. They go outside and they're kind of seeing where they're at, so they flip it out, right? Because I'm hanging with the boys, but my parents aren't gonna, right? Or my parents may be savvy, so I have it on the inside of the belt. When they start doing that, they don't care what society means. This is, I can still talk to this kid, right? This kid, right? This is a pen. This is not him running out of paper in his math and making math notes, right? This is 3 dots stands for Mi Vida Loca, and the 13 is showing that he is being influenced by Soreños, right? I want to talk to that kid before that 13 turns like that. That's a tattoo, right? Very hard for me to intervene with somebody that's decided to do that. Or do that. Okay? I want to catch a kid that a teacher may see that with a pen, take him, wash his hands, try and figure out where that's at before it ends up like that. Again, that's a picture of a juggalo. Now that may just be a huge fan, right? But once you start saying jugal, right, and labeling yourselves, then you get in a group and you go out and do criminal activity, then you're going to be defined as a criminal street gang. Hand signs. These kids become very, very acquainted with doing hand signs, and they can do it very, very easily. And that's because at some point their influence, they are now doing that stuff like they should be doing their ABCs or doing their multiplication tables, right? It is hard for me to figure out how to even begin to do that, right? But that kid has been doing that long enough where it comes at ease to him, right? Most people can't do that on demand unless they've been influenced and they're practicing. Graffiti. This is what we're seeing in the area, right? Vatos Locos Soreño 13. Vadio Dub Flats. Again, showing their allegiance to the Mexican Mafia and a Soreño set by putting that X13. Right? Sir Town Rascals. Right? The artwork that we see. This is what we want parents to pay attention to. If you're going into your kid's room and you're starting to see, this is a kid that's toying with it, right? This is a vocabulary book in high school, right? And they're just doodling on that. If they are separated from the class or they're just not getting it, they will start to do things that they are into, right? Or influenced by. Apologize, that shouldn't be in the front. I apologize. But this is just very brief of what we're seeing in the area, right? I have a full presentation that I can come out to the community, I can come out to your school, I can come out to concerned parents, and we can go through much more in depth. Or if they feel more comfortable, I have brochures, they can call and ask me questions. I would much rather be asked a question and it turned out not to be gang influence than not ask and then something tragic happen, right? We are a resource. If they don't feel comfortable talking to me, that's why I have my other partners here that are members of the leaders in the community. Andre can speak to them. Ricardo, Irvin, right? These are guys that I can call on if they just can't get past my professional obstacle, my police uniform, and know that I'm trying to do this for the right reason. We'll find somebody for them to talk to. All right? Thank you guys for being here.
How's everybody doing? My goal in years to come is to fill this room with success stories and people from the community with happy stories. I'm Joe Woods. I'm the sergeant of the gang response unit. I'm gonna tell you a little bit. I think it's important for you guys to know what our gang unit is about. Right? It's the first time I've ever had one for our city. It's the closest one between us and Seattle. There's only 3 other gang units in the state that I know of. So pretty important. I'll try not to one-up Tony, but just I feel it's important you guys know a little bit about me, right? I came from the other side of the country, born and raised just outside of Detroit. A lot of family still back there. I wouldn't say gang involved growing up, but gang impacted growing up outside that city. Shipped off to the military and I ended up here in Everett, Washington. I don't know how that happened. Going to school at Everett Community College to be a police officer and living on Casino Road. Say Casino Road has that stigma, right? I feel proud that I lived there for just a little while. Because when I go back out there today and I patrol and I make contacts with people, I feel like a little bit of ownership. because I lived there at one point. Not as long as some of the people in this room, but it makes me feel good going back out there in the community. I've been a cop now for 19 years, all those with Everett. A variety of different experiences since I've been there for my 19 years. And was selected last October to be the sergeant of the gang response unit. Take huge pride in being on the ground floor, right? How are we gonna make this unit work for our city? Because that's what we're doing. We're working for y'all. I got obviously my most important part right over here, Officer Fletcher. I'm a huge believer in the education prevention. That's number one. If we can get Tony out doing the education with the community and trying to do the prevention with the youth, that makes the job for my enforcement guys that much easier, right? And most of all, it keeps those youth out of those gangs. So we dedicate a lot of time and a lot of energy on what Tony does, and he's making that work, and I bless him every day. The enforcement piece, I got two guys. So it's me, and I got Officer Anderson. He's a 9-year vet with the department. And I got Officer Sinix. He's been here for 4. Those guys are really, really excited. We selected the best from the department, in my opinion. Super motivated, not just on the enforcement piece. It's not motivated to just go out and find gang members and arrest them. We'll hook up one of the worst dudes in the city, pulling guns off them, whatever. And as soon as they get in the car, they'll grab out their 7-Eleven coupons and turn around and find the kids, so we can show people. And they're really passionate about it. It's not just about the arrest for them. So that's a little bit about the unit. And again, we'll do some questions, answers afterwards if you guys have more. But just getting into some of the data, and like I'll caution everybody, just like the chief said a little while ago, about the stats, right? We're numbers, everybody likes to see numbers. Just keep in mind, statistics can fluctuate and they can go up and down. Year-to-date comparison, and these might be a little different than what the chief had, because mine were taken from July, year-to-date July 2018 to year-to-date July 2019. And you can just see some of the numbers that are up there. When we're talking about gang-related cases, you can see right there a huge majority of the ones that are labeled gang-related are graffiti. And it's unfortunate. It's a huge tell to us on maybe what's going on the street, but it does occupy a big percentage of those numbers. We're pretty happy about that right there. Just this far this year compared to last year. A 52% drop. I'd love to credit the work that my guys are doing. I'd love to credit everybody in this room and what we're doing. But again, stats are stats. We try to keep it real and be prepared for anything that might come up. Just so you guys can see, and this isn't a, hey, look at what we're doing, because again, these can go up, but we're dedicated. We want to hit the ground running. We're talking about gang-related cases before our unit started. And that red line is us starting up in October of 2018. And then what happened after. So we're pretty proud, but again, keeping big eyes open. Always trying to be prepared for what's coming. And these are probably a little hard to see, but this is like meat and potatoes when we're talking about the enforcement piece, right? Just number of arrests, how many are gang related, how many firearms we've recovered, because again, that is part of our mission from the mayor. In the 3 months that we were up in 2018, 68 arrests, 26 of those were gang members and 3 guns off the street. So far in 2019, 163 arrests, 90 of those are gang members and 12 guns off the street. And that's 3 dudes in your department. Sound like toot my own horn again. Every time, each one of these arrests that you see that are a gang member, we offer them away. I'll be 100% honest, we offer them away every time. The majority of the time that we're making arrests, they're adults. Because we want Tony in there doing the prevention work for the youth, right? The guys that we're out hunting, they're the adults, they're the bad guys. Dude's tatted up. I look him straight in the face, said, man, I'll help you. I'll come in on my days off, give you a ride. What do you need? So we're still trying to, even with the OGs, right? We're still trying to do that little piece. That's what I got from the gang response unit portion, from the enforcement portion. We'll open it up now to.
So does anybody have any questions? I know Andre went by a little bit on what our programs are, the changes, what we've been doing. But if you like, I can go through and describe the programs, right? So you're aware, just in case you weren't here last year. I have no problem doing that. But do you open it up if you have questions for Andre or Ricardo, Sergeant Woods, myself? We'd like to hear from you and how you think we're doing, or what we can do better, or what you're hearing, or what you believe that we need to be doing. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name's Michael Hill. I live in the Pinehurst neighborhood. I just moved there from Delta a couple of months ago. And I came into the apartments where I live, and the sign had gang tat on it.
Okay.
And so I took pictures, and I noticed on the sidewalk down the road, there was a long gang tat. It looked like Serenos, I think. I took pictures, and because I live in Everett Housing Authority property, I thought they might be interested. But in reality, they asked maintenance to come and take care of it, which kind of concerned me. That, don't you want to know if there's possible gang activity going on one of the properties that you manage? Everett Housing didn't take care of it. So finally, I talked to a police officer, maybe you, Sergeant Woods. Was it you? You called? Anyway, and he said, hey, you know, it's gang. We've already reported it to code enforcement. And by gosh, they came out a couple days later and they painted it. They did a really good job. If you have gang stuff, they do a really nice job matching it, right? So I noticed another day there was a bullet ricochet on the sign. You know, I talked to Everett Housing again, nothing. There was a HUD guy there one day, nothing. Okay, so nothing's been done about the bullet ricochet, so I put a nice bright orange sticker on it that reads, do not use this part. And so the bullet ricochet is not taken care of, and the sidewalk that has the gang tat on it isn't being taken care of. And to me, that's a smoldering fire. You know, that's not completely rid out, you know. So I would like to know who I can talk to, since the city of Everett Housing Authority doesn't seem interested. And when I mentioned it to HUD, he just joked and said he's seen 45 bullet holes in some of the places he's looked at, but he's federal. You know, I don't know what to say, but I'd be glad to stick around a little longer if somebody wants to talk to me.
Yeah, I'll meet up with
tonight.
you as soon as we're done.
Outstanding.
Yep.
And like I said, I will make sure that I have our brochures at any time. If you have any of that information that's in the community, right? There's 4 in our unit, and we all monitor our Everett gang unit email. So if you have pictures and stuff like that, we want to know where things are popping up, so you can send it to epdgang@everettwa.gov, but that'll be on the brochure if you aren't able to take that note. But we want to know where that stuff is, so we know where the activity is.
And I have. I sent
Okay.
pictures.
Outstanding.
Yes.
That means it's been logged, and that's probably how code enforcement got out there.
I would just
Anyway.
like a call back from a police officer.
Okay,
Ball's been dropped.
we'll talk. Yes, ma'am.
I live in unincorporated Snohomish County, down between kind of Thresher's Corner and Alderwood.
Mhm.
And I am a licensed foster parent, so I have a 9th grader. So I have 3 questions for you. One, you showed a map of the distribution of gangs throughout the county, so I'd like to hear a little bit more about that.
And on that, again, with stats, and when you start trying to put things for visual, that is just police incidents, not necessarily where that gang is housed or that they have. It's just how we're able to kind of visual where the activity is coming.
Okay. And then 2 would be, when the kids are getting involved in gangs, are a lot of them still going to school? I mean, is there gang activity in the schools? I mean, is that how they're getting to know each other, or are they necessarily going out of the schools? So that's number 2. And then my 3rd question is, do you work with, or how do you work with DCYF?
So let's go with question number 2 first, right? So are they doing this activity in school? Are they meeting up at school? Or are they doing it some other way? It's been my experience that a lot of our youth are dealing with social media now. whether it's Instagram, Snapchat, they're on Facebook talking back and forth, right? Making pictures and saying things. Because we are getting out to our school, out to our teachers, our admin, right, our parent education, and giving them the information of what to look for, and school districts are having zero tolerance because of the safety, right? Those kids that are doing that, we've got to find somewhere else to educate them until that's not part of it, right? So it's been my experience that they're doing it on social media. So if you need some resources on how to monitor your kid's social media, and if you're a parent in the room and don't believe that your kid has some access to social media, we definitely need to talk, right? Having been a school resource officer for 2 years, I had parents that came in and told me, there's no way my kid doesn't have a computer, doesn't have a phone. Well, as soon as they get there with their friends, they'll borrow their phone for the whole time that they're there, and they'll do all that. Or if they have a phone, right, they'll put the app on when they get off the bus, do everything they need to do, delete the app, and then go home and say, here you go, you have my phone. And then they turn around and do it though. So if you believe that your kid is not in social media, then please take my phone number. Third question, remind me, I apologize.
Working with DCY,
DCY.
particularly the foster
Yeah,
area.
work with them all the time. The pivot group that myself and Andre are facilitators for, it's 6 agencies that would have any contact with youth between the ages of 8 and 24, right, or going into young adults. A representative from DCYF is at that monthly meeting that we do, right? I have phone conversations with social workers on a daily basis, whether they're looking for a runaway that I can help with, or they have someone that they're worried about because a school has called them and said that there's some indicators. I work with all the social workers at Everett and Linwood. I'm starting to get to know the ones in Skagit as well. Not a problem. Any other questions? Yes.
So I've seen the presentation deck of the gang symbols and the clothing probably 4 or 5 times now. So I feel like I'm pretty comfortable, like I would be able to identify somebody who's a gang member. And my son, in fact, has seen the presentation a couple of times. He's 10 years old, and he has identified a couple of gang members to me before. Went around about, I'm like, just keep walking. And my assumption is that you show us that so that as community members, we can identify people. I want my son to know that information, so if there's a classmate that maybe is starting to do the doodling on his book, he can let his teacher know about that. I'm only one parent of thousands and thousands in this area. And you know, I look around here, we don't have a ton of parents in this room tonight. How do we do a better job of getting that information out to the parents? I know you can go to the city website and there's a page that's got a ton of information, but that's just not how people consume that information these days. It's like it needs to come to them.
Yes, and that's where we're finding that hesitation, right? So we need people that are in the room that have the courage and the wherewithal to be those leaders to go back and say, hey, I don't care if you call me and I've got to go to a bridge meeting or whatever, and I take the first 15, wherever people are meeting, I would like to go, right? They may not be comfortable coming to a gang symposium because then they may have to acknowledge that they have an issue, right? Or they may see something that puts them on notice, right? But being a friend, being an aunt, being a concerned parent in that youth's life, we need you to step up and then call me, right? Or have that person call me, right? We can only advertise as much and try and get the information out as much, right? I don't know who I don't know who I have to talk to, right?
Right.
Does that make sense?
You know what I would really love to see you guys do, and I've mentioned this before, is give us some tools for social media. So I've been able to spread the news. I run the Westmont Holly Neighborhood Association, which is down in this area, and I've been able to spread the news about the graffiti hotline. Like, so many people know about that now because of just putting that up on Facebook and people sharing it in the groups and things like that. And I've got access to Mukilteo Mom School District groups that they're private groups that I can take information that you share and share that with the parents there, and we can have conversations about it.
So I know that we have a complete team with the city and the police department that is working on our marketing through social media and being able to better do that, a better website, right? Better access to that information. So what you can do is you can get a hold of me and I can put you in contact with those leaders and they can figure out how to make that work.
Sounds good.
I
Thank
can
you.
tell you a really easy, instant way to figure this stuff out, and, you know, don't read too deep in the weeds, but just go to Google and type in, CRIP hand signs. You know, some of them might differ, right? So I'm not saying don't place all your cards in that, but you'll see a consistent pattern, right? Some of that might point out some stuff too. It's an easy way to get it right now, if you guys are looking for
Right.
colors.
Yeah, I just, I like it when the city puts out information that I can then share with the neighborhood. You know, that gives it credibility, it comes from a source,
Sure.
it's, you know, so.
I can assure you that Tony from day one has been to countless meetings on the education piece and trying to push that out to the community.
And if you're aware of a meeting that I need to go to, please let me know and I will go there. But this is what I do 42 hours a week, like the chief said. It is something that they've dedicated. It was something that was looked into and there was a grant position, but the city has taken that extra step and this is a full-time position, right? So I will go wherever I need to help spread the word and make sure that people know.
And honestly, I think Tony's word, rather than just looking at a pamphlet or something, is going to go way, way better. For
Yeah,
whoever you
I
are.
agree, but I just, you know, when I think of all of the people out there and how many have been exposed to it, it's, you know, just a fraction. It's like, we need to get it out there to more people.
We'll find a way to do it. So as Andre was saying, I personally and Andre working with upwards of 30 different providers. We have team partners, whether it's YMCA, Boys Club, Hand in Hand, Child's Tribe, Cocoon House, right? Trying to organize a meeting with that many people is almost impossible, right? And we spent a lot of time last year trying to chase down those meetings and facilitate those meetings. So the design that we're gonna do now is most of those agencies already have someone embedded in the school. Someone that, hey, for Everett High School, there's a representative from Cocoon House that goes to that school. So I'm going to start stepping out and going to those core meetings on each campus so we can try and wrap the kids around faster, right? It's just been an obstacle to try and get over. So we're thinking out of the box. Changing our pay program, right? Last year we did it as a pilot, right? And with that pilot, we tried to have a program that had 10 kids in it. And it terrifies me to think that we would identify 10 at-risk or high at-risk kids on one campus. It's almost unfathomable, right? You have one or two, maybe three that influence the rest, right? So to get that program established, we are going to be opening it up to all 6 middle schools in the Everett area, right? So the goal is to have those 1 or 2 high-risk cases from each campus, right, be embraced by that program and be linked with a community mentor, right? Any other? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Brenda Ivory. I have a question for Sergeant Woods. You said that you offer almost everyone a way out when you do identify a gang member. I wanted to know how you do that and if there's something you can say to somebody you know is in a gang to help them get out.
So I just clarify that on every time that we arrest a gang member, and offering them a way out. I mean, it can equal 50 different things, and it all varies. And what it comes down to is, you know, you got that guy who's sitting in the back of your police car who's not looking forward to the next 48 hours, and I've had dudes break down, you know, tatted up, just took a gun off him, and you start talking to him like a real person and what's going on in your life. What can I do to help? And it's not a set specific, you know, bullet points of what we can do to get you out. It's just that one-on-one personal, what can I do, man? How can I help you? Let's look at some programs that we have that are already established in the county, and there's a lot of reluctance there. Guys that have been in and are adults and going to jail for gang crimes, it's a lot of reluctance. It's tough. But I know that isn't a clear answer to your question, but it varies. It's different for every person.
Can I try and help with that? Because I have the same thing with you. People call me and say, hey, so this kid says he wants to get out. How are you going to get him out? Right? So my first conversation with them, I need them to do 3 things for me, right? They first got to be honest with themselves, right? Are you endangering yourself? And you can't lie to yourself. You can tell me over and over again that you're not doing something, but you're just saying it to try and convince yourself. They can't be honest with themselves, right? Then we can't start. Once they're honest with themselves, they have to be honest with the person that loves them the most, right? Whether it's a parent, whether it's a guardian, whether it's their teacher at school that they identify with. They have to be honest with that person. And then third, if they want me to work with them, they have to be honest with me, right? And I tell them, being honest with me includes, hey, Officer Fletcher, I don't want to talk to you about that part. Perfectly fine. I'll give you more respect for that you don't want to talk to me about a certain thing that I just asked you, because you have the right to do that. Everything that I do is voluntary. For prevention and intervention has to be voluntary. If it's not, I'm just another adult telling them to go do something that's not going to get them out of bed or not going to get them to their personal goals. So that's how I deal with it. And that's what Sarge is trying to explain. It's different for each person, right? It worked for me, it worked football, right? Somebody else, it may be soccer. Somebody else, it may be culinary school, right? I don't know, but those 3 questions are how we start that conversation and doing that intervention.
So if I may add something to a little bit of that, the same. So, you know, I've basically been in Everett like most of my life. I came here from Mexico when I was 10 years old, and I'm 30 now, so I've been here basically like 20 years. And I've been in the juvenile system, I've been in the law system, so I've been to those things, all these pictures, and some of them are somewhat true, some are not. Like I said, when you're on the streets, and especially when you're out here putting that presentation for people who have no idea what they look like or what to look for, you put something close to relevance to what it actually looks like. Some of those shoelaces, some of the things, a lot of things are more low key, so they're not going to be as like, oh, that's a South Sider. And one of the things that when you say, what can we do to like help these students, adults, young adults, is one thing is not ostracize them. So basically not make them feel like they're not a part of society. So when they show you these things, it's not for you to say, oh, that's what I'm gonna look for so I can walk on the other side of the street. That's not what people are looking for. If you make them into a monster, they'll become that.
That's right.
People used to tell me, you're gonna be a cholo. You're gonna be a cholo, you're gonna be a gangster, you're gonna be a gangster. And guess what I became? I became exactly that. Because that's what society was telling me.